What's up, everybody? Mr. Hancock here. This Comp 2 video here is the introduction to the Unit 2 essay, the Call to Action Persuasive essay. Specifically, Week 6, where we're going to focus on the basic instructions and starting research. So, let's get into this. You have noticed here that in Unit 1, you were not putting forth an argument. What you were doing was analyzing someone else's argument and understanding the types of techniques from the reader's point of view of how these argumentative techniques work. And you were supposed to explain and through understanding how those techniques are applied and how they work on the reader. And now you're going to put that forth and use it yourself as the author of an argument. So let's go ahead and get into that now. So here we are. This obviously isn't available just yet, but it'll be lit up for you when you click into it. Here we are, and then obviously week 6. We'll have 4 weeks into this, going into week 9. So week 6, and here we are. Okay, so obviously always check your checklist, and let me go ahead and warn you now that this week we need to begin research right out of the gates, and I want you to understand that research takes time. It takes a lot of time, and so that's just something you're going to have to accept. In the fact that when it comes to college, especially when it comes to research, whether it be a composition class or a different class, you're going to have to spend a lot of time doing research. So the worst thing you can do is wait to the last minute, okay? You have to begin research as you begin planning and thinking about your topic, okay? It will guide you, and they will work together that when you do choose a topic and you have an argument, your research has informed you, and your research will fit in perfectly with it. More on that in a few minutes. So just wanted to give you a heads up. This is research heavy. The rest of the class is going to be research heavy, so you need to be ready to focus hard on research, all right, and give yourself plenty of time. All right, so here we are, the call to action essay instructions. Let's go ahead and click that guy, and let's talk about it. All right, so right off the bat, you'll notice that it is a minimum of 750 words. So please, and to be honest with you, when you're incorporating 3 secondary sources and you're presenting an argument, you should go way beyond 750, okay? So we'll talk about that in a minute. 3 secondary sources, we'll talk about that in a moment too. So thesis and outline is going to be due on the Sunday the 11th, obviously always by 11:59 p.m. Rough drafts, we're going to do something different. I explain it down here, but basically we are going to be... you're not going to submit your rough drafts directly to me as an assignment and I make comments again. What you're going to do is you're going to post your, as an attachment, you're going to post your rough draft into the week, I believe it's 8, I have to look at it, I think it's 9, excuse me, discussion board. And then I will also supply a peer review sheet. After you post your rough draft, you'll go to 2 other folks and use the peer review sheet to give them feedback, because the purpose of your rough drafts and outlines getting looked at, it's not so much of me just or somebody else telling you what you need to fix. It's a big part of it is you learning proofreading skills on your own. So when you go off into other classes and writing in life, you're able to proofread your own stuff and you're more autonomous and independent in that area, okay? So that'll be due there. Obviously on Thursday, what that means is your essay needs to be posted by Thursday, and then your peer reviews need to be posted by the Sunday the 18th. And then the 25th, that's when your final draft will be due. I think this essay is way easier than the last essay you've done. The hardest part is going to be finding sources that are going to back you up, all right? So let's get to that. Here it is. We call it the call to action. This is a basic argumentative essay. However, it's got a specific touch to it. So I'll just read it. It says, this argument is sometimes called a call to action. Your goal is to find a current issue, preferably in your career field. And I would like y'all to do that. Try to find something in your area, something current in your area of study. If you don't have anything, what's an area of interest? Just try to go in those areas. If you can't, then you can branch out into something else. But I want you to stay away from just common, cliched, over-argued points right now. Because what you're going to do in this essay, it needs to be something current and important right now, especially in your career field, because the next 2 writing assignments are going to be based in this as well, based on this topic here, okay? So understand that what you're going to write about here is not going to end here. It's going to grow into bigger pieces later. So make sure you choose something that's larger, that needs to be dealt with in your area, okay? But it can be large, it can be local, state, regional, as you could say. And you're going to argue for an explicit opinion, but notice this, that calls for the reader to take some type of action in favor of your position on the topic. So your big goal here is, you at the end of this paper, you want your reader asking, well, what can I do to fix this? What can I do to help it? What can we do to solve this issue? So what that means is you're not going to go in and start telling the reader how to fix it right now. Before you can do that, you have to convince them that there's a problem that needs to be fixed. And that's the goal of this paper, is to convince your reader that we have a problem here that needs to be fixed, okay? That's your goal. You're going to have 3 secondary sources. So let me explain this. A primary source is a type of source. It's say like you're writing about literature, a poem. The poem itself is a primary source, okay? It's what you're analyzing. If you do an interview with someone, the interview of a first-hand witness, eyewitness account, that's a primary source, someone who saw it. A secondary source is essentially your paper. It's someone else who has analyzed something and drawn a conclusion. So that's what you want. You want other folks who have already analyzed the situation or similar situations and produced evidence or produced a conclusion on this, all right? So that's what you need. You need 3 particular sources on this. Now, you'll notice that I do have research requirements down here that explain this. Number 1, you must have 3 secondary sources, not 2 secondary and 1 primary. If you have a primary, that's fine, but you still need 3 more secondary sources. So it's a minimum of 3 secondary sources. Also, only 1 can come from a website, and I mean a good reputable website, like a .edu, a .org, something like that, .gov. Those are fine. A random blog or a YouTube video where someone's ranting about something going on, or a podcast, that's not going to work. But you can have only one of those sources can be a website. You don't have to use a website, but if you do, only 1 can be a website. Maximum of 1 from a website. 1 must come from an academic journal from the UAPTC database. More on that to come. So you know that 1 must come from there. And then all must be documented correctly with in-text citations and a works cited page. So, more on that to come. That explains your rough draft submissions and everything like that, okay? So there it is. Notice in this paragraph right here, it says, these sources must include empirical data primarily. In other words, mainly use logos appeal in your argument. Okay, so I say this here. When we go into convincing arguments, a good data-driven argument is that you need empirical data. And what we mean by that is we want to avoid as much ethos argument as we can. We definitely want to avoid pathos. When it comes to convincing someone, pathos can work, but it's also, that's kind of like making decisions based on your emotion. That's when you have buyer's remorse and things like that. So you don't want to drive your reader based on emotion. That's when problems can happen. That's when we have regrets. That's when things can fall apart. You need to have data-driven arguments here, okay? So if you come in and say blank X, Y, and Z because A, B, and C, you need to be able to show us documented data where that is the case, okay? So your research is going to be really heavily involved with logos, with logic, all right? Facts, data, stats, things like that, okay? Doesn't mean it has to be numbers, hardcore numbers driven, but it does need to be logic driven, okay? And we need evidence, all right? So please keep that in mind. There it is. So going back here, let me go back really quick over here into week 6. So this handout here, I want to bring this up for just a minute. This handout here is a basic argumentative essay type of writing handout. And so what this does is, first off, it shows you right off the bat, when you're putting this together, and especially those who are really scientific minded, you're putting this together like you're doing with a science experiment, with a scientific method, okay? You start off asking questions, you do preliminary research, you construct a thesis, like a hypothesis. Not saying you're going to go forward with writing this paper yet, but you're thinking, I think this should be my argument. Then you're going to test it by doing an experiment. That is basically looking at your evidence to ask, do I have enough evidence to support my argument in an essay? And if you say yes, then you can go forward with writing the paper. If you don't, then you need to go back and fix some more of your research and or fix your thesis. And then analyze your data, draw a conclusion. That's that decision, and then report your results that's when you draft out your essay, okay? So this really kind of works in the scientific method, and it forces you to ask yourself that question. Here's my argument. Do I have enough evidence to support my argument if I were to go forward with this? If you don't, you need to go back and revise it. If you do, you're ready to go forward, okay? Also down here, if you need some help with your thesis statement, this is a really good way to help you put forward an argumentative thesis statement. It explains what to do. Once you fill in these spots here, you can erase this front part here and just have a basic argument. Here's a basic argument about a video, or excuse me, about a short story. Doesn't matter if it's a short story, doesn't matter if it's a call to action, the thesis will work exactly the same. It will be a clear-cut argument. You will say, this is what this essay is going to convince you. Bam, that's it. Also, the C method is something we're going to work on. I'm going to talk about that next week, or week 7 actually, when it comes to time to start doing the outline. But there you go. That talks about what the C method is when it comes to putting your body together, how your outline should look, and a little bit about the rough drafts. But that's really going to be important right here. More on that next week, okay? Anyway, that's a little handout for you there. Down here now, I obviously have a video about the UAPTC database. I'll also have a link to access it here. Please watch this video. Now, you have to understand something. This video is going to give you my personal research support and, what do you say, my personal research tips and tricks. So please take a look at that. But you have to understand right off the bat that when it comes to research, and it's kind of a cheesy statement, but it's true. They call it research because you search and then search again. You research. So it's going to take time. It's going to take time where you're just going to have to dig around and look, okay? And then you have your week 6. I'm also going to have, like I said, a link to the database here. I'm also going to incorporate something called the embedded librarian. This is literally one of our librarians that's going to be in the class with me and there to help you out with your research questions. So you don't always have to ask me. There's someone directly connected to the library, deals directly with the database that can help you out with this as well, okay? So I'll have that in here as well. Please watch that video, y'all. And last thing I want to say that, like I said at the very beginning of this video, is that when you start brainstorming and thinking about your topic, you have to start doing research right there, okay? Just like we saw with that scientific method. You have to do background research. You have to do preliminary searching to see first off, what's going on. What are people talking about right now? What are current problems, all right? And how do we prove that that's a problem? That's your argument. Remember, that's what your evidence should show, that this is a problem, all right? This is where this is something we need to fix. Not how to fix it, but this is something that needs fixing. So what you want to do, or let me say this, what you don't want to do is come up with an idea and an argument and then go start researching. Because what you're going to do there is you're going to present this perfect little argument that you have, and you're going to try to find evidence that's going to support and fit in. And a lot of times it doesn't work like that, and you end up having to adjust something. So what you want to do, as you are starting to put your ideas together and your argument together, research at the same time. That way, as you're going forward, you already have your sources out of the way, and your sources fit perfectly where you don't have that, oh my God, I can't find sources at the end of the day. So that's mainly what you want to try to do there, okay? All right, y'all, if you have any questions, that's it. So please let me know. If you come to class, I can answer any questions there. Otherwise, if you're virtual, shoot me an email, call me, whatever you need, and we'll talk, okay? Have a good day.